Oh.
So happy Sunday. Happy Halloween weekend as well. It's Halloween, and
Oh my
Margie's been a big
gosh.
influence. Thought I would grow my hair out and do a little
Oh no, Peter,
blonde.
do
Blonde, like they say, blondes just want to have fun. So yeah, happy Halloween weekend. I love Halloween.
not.
Always been one of my favorite holidays, and I think if Baba was living, he would definitely have loved it as well.
Yeah, Peter, it
You're,
looks
you're
great.
one in a million.
It's great. You got to keep it on the whole time, Peter. Now
You
you're
got it. I'll keep it on the whole time just for you. So this is a special, very special late night chat. Um, we have Margie, who will be off to India tomorrow. So and she's taking all of us with her in her heart, and also our dear friend Izzy, who will also be off to India tomorrow night. I'm sure Izzy's probably busy packing and getting ready, getting prepared for it. But you never know,
yeah.
maybe she'll surprise us and join
She
in.
will listen to it tomorrow. That's
Okay,
just
she'll listen to it tomorrow. So, Izzy, I hope you have a wonderful trip. Um, I wanted to start things off with sharing a special iMovie that I created this past week. Let me mute. I'm hearing an echo as well, so let me just mute some people here. That's better. Okay. So yes, as I was saying, I created this iMovie this past week. Uh, this has pictures of like India, usually Meherbad and Amanargar and Meherzad, and it's to one of my favorite Baba songs from Jamie Noel. If you're traveling to Meherzad, or if you're traveling to Meherbad, correction on that. And here we go. I mute myself as well, so I won't do background noise.
If you're traveling to Meherbad, where the wind blows wild and free, you may see my own true love. Won't you give him a flower for me? Oh, if you see my own true love, won't you bring him a flower from me? And if you're traveling to Meherbad, won't you climb that hill for me, where my beloved one lies fast asleep beneath a banyan tree. You will find him lying fast asleep beneath a banyan tree. And if you should give your heart to him, won't you shed a tear for me? Oh, and let it fall, fall among the flowers lying at his lotus feet. Let your teardrops fall among the flowers at his lotus feet. And if his love should bring you to your knees, won't you say a prayer for me, that one day I may lay my head where your head soon shall be? Oh, that one day I may lay my head where your head soon shall be. And if my own true love should ask for me, just say I'm off in the world somewhere. But the moment that it is His will, I promise I will be there. For the moment that it is His will, I swear I will be there. So if you're traveling to Meribod, where the wind blows wild and free, you may see my own true love. Won't you give him a flower for me? Oh, if you see my own true love, won't you bring him a flower from me? A garland of sweet jasmine flowers, with love to him from me.
Thank you, Peter. Oh my gosh, that was beautiful.
My pleasure. Thank you,
Uh,
Margie.
How
Appreciate it.
cool.
And yeah, that's dedicated to everybody going to Merbod in the next year, even, and especially you and Izzy for tomorrow.
Thank you. That means I recognize some of those photos.
Oh yeah, I thought you would. Love them.
So for tonight, I mean, Peter already kind of touched on it, but the topic tonight is on pilgrimage, and not necessarily pilgrimage to India, but pilgrimage to Baba centers and our most profound experience of pilgrimage. So as always, I sent out an email, and would someone want to volunteer to read it? So I don't have to make anybody do it. Okay. Oh, Terry. Yay. Okay. All right. Let me figure out how to share my screen. I'm not as talented as Peter. So,
Actually, it's Diane.
oh,
You had a 50% chance.
oh my gosh. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Well, in my defense, your name has both on the screen. So,
You had
Hey,
a
Margie,
50%.
Margie,
yeah.
it's Marta. Did you write that email?
Yeah.
I thought for sure that Jeff had written it because it was so beautiful. I mean, I
Oh.
couldn't believe it. Everything you packed in there. It was exquisite, Margie.
Oh,
Exquisite.
That's
Bye
why
bye,
I had to
Grace.
read it. So I'd sound really good.
Well, okay. Let me pull it up. Here we go. Okay. Can you see it? All right.
Jai Baba all. For tonight's topic, we were hoping to hear some of the stories of Baba's personalized grace and presence in your lives. Our Baba goes to great lengths to ensure that we know he loves us. We feel one of the ways he does this is through our pilgrimages to visit him. Through the journeys to his home, he pours his eternal love on us. He showers us in serendipitous experiences that last a lifetime. The perfection in which Baba orchestrates minute details to ensure we feel welcomed is extraordinary. He remembers things that we ourselves even forget. Over the years at the center and in India, we have heard innumerable accounts of his personalized Nazaar over all his lovers. After all, he knows us better than we know ourselves, and you best believe he uses that to his divine advantage. We hope tonight can be sharing of those experiences. This is God's work in the present. Maybe you visited the center in desperation and the avatar gave you an experience to help you carry on. Maybe you curiously traveled to Mehrana and were deeply moved by Baba's infinite beauty. All of these experiences require laborious work and divine timing from our Lord. This topic came to mind because I will travel to India tomorrow with the lovely Izzy. It will be her first trip. I've been there many times, but some trips stick out more than others. Some trips, he doesn't give us the experience we expect, which can leave us feeling abandoned and doubtful. Some trips, as you are packing your suitcase, you feel an immense outpour of his love before you even arrive. Why do you think that is? Do you feel he awaits? Do you feel he waits until our hearts truly have the longing for him? Or is it possible that when we feel he is absent from us, what he is really calling for us to do is to turn to him at an inner level? We have felt that often when we go on pilgrimage with expectation, he shatters it to create room for the only reality his. Is this your experience? He gives us exactly what we need, even if what we need is a true catalyst for uncomfortable growth. Have you had trips that were terribly trying, but lead you closer to oneness? Have you had trips that felt as if there was a divinely blissful exchange of lover and beloved? Was there a trip in your early life with Baba that gave you the conviction to know who he is, who he says he is? We believe Baba does deep work on us while we are on his centers. We have heard many stories of people having profound insights about the changes they need to make in their lives. Have you had any of those experiences? Is it incredible? It is incredible the lengths Baba goes on in order to reach our hearts. Many pilgrimages in India are filled with great sickness that leave us weak and crying out for his help. Has this happened to you? Was there a closeness you felt to our beloved in this malady? These are just a few examples, but I am sure you all have more of your own. We cannot wait to share and allow our lovely Izzy to hold these in her backpack as she travels to the home of the heart. In his love, Maggie and Peter. Jai Baba. Thanks for the honor of reading your words.
Oh, thank you for reading them. And I won't get your name wrong again. I promise. I hate that that's my pet peeve. I have to say, I just want to, I'm Margie. I know my name is a big controversy for a lot of people. They think it's Maggie or Margie or something. It's Margie. So just moving forward for everybody so you have it. So does anybody want to start out sharing their experience of pilgrimage? Doesn't have to be necessarily the first one, but just a profound one that touched your heart. Martha, and I know Peter, is Peter here?
Yeah, he's the one with the wig.
Oh, there. I'm actually looking for Peter without a wig, and that's why I can't find him. Oh my gosh. Peter, you've got some pictures, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason I wanted to start because my story isn't about India, it's about Meher Mount. That's my place of pilgrimage. It's about 40 minutes from where I live. And the reason I included pictures is because, Peter, pictures are coming, yes?
Peter, I think you're muted.
Anyway, the reason I include pictures is because my pilgrimage to Meher Mount, to Baba, has always been through offering flowers. And as you may or may not know, at Meher Mount, there's an exquisitely gorgeous, huge oak tree that Meher Baba sat under when he went there in 1956. It's been burned twice. This last time it was pretty major, but little baby Baba trees are sprouting up all around it. So in the very beginning, which was about 25 years ago or more, I've always had hearts in my life, my whole life. And I found a heart rock, and I asked Margaret and Sam if I could bring it up to put it under Baba's tree so I could mark where Baba had sat. And they said yes. So this was the second heart rock. But the reason I have pictures is because I thought there was going to be some of the young kids here, because I kind of wanted to open up this box of creative inspiration. There's more pictures than that. Because every time I go, I first go to Trader Joe's and I get like 2 or 3 bouquets of flowers. And then I take a tray with pruning shears and I go up to Maher Mount and I arrange flowers around Baba's rock under the tree, the oak tree that he sat. And then also at Maher Mount, the original house that Baba gave darshan was burned down with the first fire, but the fireplace is still there. So I also bring flowers and arrange the flowers at the opening of the fireplace. Eventually there's going to be a whole place to sit and meditate right there where the fireplace is, where Baba sat. But right now it's just in the planning stage. Peter, are you going to show the rest of the pictures?
Sure. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't know like how fast you wanted to get through them.
just go ahead slowly and show the pictures. They're all different ways that I wanted to just show that, that you or anybody can offer their creative spirit to Baba in any way. And for some reason, this has been the way that I get so much joy and delight, arranging different things around the heart rock for Baba. And sometimes other people come and do that too. But also, I think they're all in one email, Peter. Can you just put the email up?
Here,
You know how to share the screen?
I'll tell you what, let me try a different way.
I think Diane knows how to do it.
Let me try a different way here. 1 second. Try to do this. Okay, let me try from a screen.
One of the most moving times. I mean, I've gone up many, many, many times to Maher Mount, but one of the most moving times was when after my mom passed away, and I went up there and I was the only one there. The caretakers were at the house and I was the only one there. It was kind of a drizzly, cloudy day, and I took the flowers and I took pictures of my mom and I arranged them around the heart rock, and I arranged them with the flowers. And then they have a bench there that I sat. And I closed my eyes and there you go.
Okay.
Now you can just run through them, please. There you go, slowly, slowly. Thank you. And when I had my eyes closed, I was kind of just saying Baba's name. And I had a vision, and my mom and dad were inside Baba's tomb. And you know those steps that go up in the tomb where we used to be able to sit in the old days. My mom was on one side and my dad was on the other, facing the door out. And as I looked into Baba's tomb, they were both smiling at me. And I knew that they were both happy and with Baba. And okay, just stop there for a second. This rock was the second rock that I found in an alley when I was taking a walk. It was not cracked. And I went that night with my car because I had to lift it. It was really heavy. This rock came through the second fire that they had 2 years ago. And the fire cracked it. And I always just thought that was always so beautiful and so symbolic. So eventually I found another heart rock, which you'll see pictures of, but I brought this one back to my house and it's at my entrance of my house. Okay, Peter, thank you. Keep going. This was the original first heart rock that I found. You can see they progressed as time went on. Okay, Peter, thank you. Go ahead. Now here's Baba in 1956 at the pool at Maher Mount. And I thought this was such a great picture. And I don't think most people have seen it. So I just threw that in there because I just think it's adorable. And that's Agnes Barron and of course, Eric and Audie's there. Thank you, Peter, go ahead. And this is at the fireplace. And this is one of my photos from home that I brought. And you can see I use plants sometimes, or I just cut the heads off the flowers, or use Christmas ornaments or whatever. Okay, Peter, thank you. This was just greenery around Christmas time.
Looks like another heart rock. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a small one that I brought up and found. Yeah. Just found it and put it in the crack. This is one of my favorite arrangements. I think it's lovely. That's also one of my photos that Hermes gave me a million years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful photo.
Yeah, wow, that's so beautiful.
All right.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
no,
Thank you, Marta.
Thank you, Peter, for going through all that. I appreciate it.
My
I was,
pleasure.
like I said, I don't know where the kids are tonight, but there you go. They can watch it later, maybe get
Yeah,
some
I think a lot of
ideas,
them watch it on YouTube.
get some ideas or something, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's a really
All
good
right.
story too.
All right. Looks like Tina has something to share. Tina, good evening.
Yes. Well, when I went, I've been to India 4 times, and when I went in '93, I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and nothing worked. Nothing I tried worked. And I was basically awake for 3 weeks, and I just could not get on the time change. So when I went in 2008, um, I I thought I was better, and so I thought I'll chance it. And so it started happening again. I was just awake, I couldn't sleep. And so uh, after 3 days, I left. But it's like Anne Conlon going to India for the weekend. Yeah, that's what I did. And I just could not get on the time change, and so I just wanted to cut my losses. But I did manage to spend some time in the samadhi, and that was worth the brief trip. So it all worked out. It all worked out.
Baba's got a way of, I think in India, it's like, you know, in Myrtle Beach, you get a little bit more of the warmth of the fire. And in Maribad, he can do it in a weekend because you're stepping right into the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
furnace. Yeah, there's no softness there.
Yeah, well, one interesting thing happened in 2008. I was walking down the hill with Chitra Alvarado, and she saw this neem bush, and she said, "Oh, Gil says these berries are really good for you." And she popped one into her mouth, and her husband's a homeopathic doctor, a naturopathic doctor. And so I also popped a neem berry into my mouth. And by the time I got to the bottom of the hill, I was deathly ill. I had to take a tonga and go, back to my room. And it didn't affect Chitra, but it just got me. So, we're all different.
Yeah. There's this, it actually reminded me of this other story that I've heard. I don't know what Baba couple it is, but I think Jeff told me the story that no, actually it was Biff Soper in India. He said that there was this Baba couple who came. The husband was a Baba lover and the wife was not. And when she was kind of okay with it, kind of went along with it, and then she opened up her cupboard in either the NPR or the MPC, and there was a cobra in and she started screaming, and then she locked herself in her room for like, I think their trip was like 2 weeks, 10 days, locked herself in there and did not come out. And then finally the last day, she opens up her door and she goes, "I love Meher Baba." And that was the end of that story. But it's so funny how Baba works in those mysterious ways. Yeah.
That is funny. Where are you, Margie?
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, what are you doing there?
I can ask myself that. I moved out here during COVID. So like, what is it? 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I hope it's working out for you.
Thank you. So does anybody else have any other stories of pilgrimage or, all right, where's our tech guy?
All right, we have Joshua from the land down under. Joshua, good evening, or actually good morning. It's probably morning where you are.
Actually, it's evening. It's afternoon now. It's 1:26 p.m.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I just thought that I'd share a little bit of stuff from Australia. So this is sort of like a pilgrimage from Australia coming to you folks through the medium of Zoom. It's interesting, yeah. Like I know in Australia, there are sort of several Baba places. The two most famous ones are Mayor House in Sydney and Advertiser Abode in Queensland. Mayor House was built by Francis Brabazon, like out of rock. Like this, he's like pretty crazy. Like he just like bought some land, cut some rock, and built a house out of sandstone rock for Baba. And then also Baba at one stage asked Francis to find another place for him up sort of to the north in a more tropical area of Australia, which he did. A lot of people think it's quite sort of like short travel between the two, but it's not. It's about 12 hours by car. Australia is very big. I feel like I've got to carry the Australian torch here because the lovely Australian rainy isn't here. But yes, Francis Brabazon wrote this great thing about Advertiser Abode, which is the Australian pilgrimage place, where he said, Advertiser Abode is a stopping place on the road to the beloved, for he stopped here on the road to our hearts and took over the lives of those who came and gave themselves to him. The place was acquired at his request. He gave it the name it bears. No stopping place can be a destination except that place where mind stops forever and one knows that one is God. Your destination is your own heart, in which the eternal ancient one eternally lives. But because Avatar Meher Baba, the all-loving one, stayed here, the perfume of his love may refresh and strengthen you on the way to his feet. So yeah, I'm sure either in this life or the next, at some stage, we'll all be visiting Avatar's abode as we keep that beacon alight.
Thank you, Josh. Jai Baba. And
Well,
that's
I want to hear your personal experience though.
Yeah, it's different. As I said in the comments, it's different each time. Like first time I went to India, yeah, it was fiery and it was like hell. But it was good, you know, it's like those, I don't know, like those, like, I don't know, some kind of, where people like detox or whatever. I don't actually do that and I think it's unhealthy. But I guess like, it felt like it was like a release, you know, of some kind of stuff, and it felt good and I was happy. But, and also interesting to note, the pilgrimage experience was completely different from when I was a child. I actually put down the reason I'm a Baba lover is because I have memories of going to Baba places as a child. I wouldn't ever say that I'm sort of open to energy or anything like that. But as a child, going to Baba places was literally like walking into this fairyland, exquisite, like palace on a, like, yeah, like this, there was just, you know, smells and flavors and it felt so magical. Yeah, like I think probably some of the strongest times I've connected with Baba was as a child going to Baba places where there was just this exquisite sort of sense, and it's like an aroma, but it's not a smell, you know, it was just very interesting. So yeah, I highly recommend it next time everyone reincarnates as a child.
Well, I'll be sure to write that in my finishing statement, Baba. Let me.
Thank you, Josh. Australia is one of the places I would love to go to within the next 5 years, even. All right, up next we have Diane. Good evening, Diane or Terry. I get you guys confused all the time.
I'm Diane.
That's what I thought, but I'm like, oh, maybe it's Terry.
You guys have to get you have to get separate computers and each be on a different screen.
Yes, exactly.
No, we get to sit together. We get to sit next to each other this way. So it's worth it. It's worth it. So in 2012, Terry got turned on to Baba by our dear friend Seppi Hope, who now lives in England. And Seppi, this is kind of part of Terry's story. So I'll skip over that part, but Seppi left us with photos and some books, and Terry started reading a lot about Baba. And one morning woke up and said, I have to go to India. And I said, shit. Because it was not on my bucket list at all. And I thought long and hard about it. And 5 seconds later said, well, we'll make a vacation out of it because I want to bear witness to your spiritual journey, because I think that's how couples drift apart. But let's make a vacation of it. So 1 week vacationing and then the second week at Mehrabad. So we did that, and we did Rajasthan, did the Taj and all around Jaipur, Udaipur, and Jodhpur, and it was wonderful. And we got to Pune on Baba's birthday because Terry did not want to get to Mehrabad on Baba's birthday. She just felt that the crowds were going to be too much. And we got assigned a guide as a gift, and it was a woman guide, which was very unusual. None of our guides had been women. And she has heard that we were there to see Meher Baba. So she studied up, did some Google research, and actually took us to stores that were owned by Baba lovers. And we went to Baba's house. We saw Pumpkin House, and went to where Guru Prasad was kind of, it's like this little room now. And then the next day we went. And I had said to Terry, what are we going to do while we're there? 5 days without internet, without any plans. I heard they don't do programs or anything structured. And she said, listen, the worst thing that will happen is we'll hold hands and read to each other and take walks. I said, okay, I'm in. And so we went there, and we would get up in the morning, and we had lots of, Seppi had told us all these stories. It's hard to get to the bathroom in the middle of the night. You should bring something with you. So in our trip, we are sporting in our luggage a little peapot. And the room that they gave us was the room right next to the bathroom. In fact, it was en suite. You could open the doors from our bedroom, from our room, and go right into the bathroom. And that was what happened for the next 5 days, is like magic, doors opened for us. And we would get up and we'd go to the Samadhi in the morning and go for Arti and go at night. And we were there about 2 days. And at lunch, somebody walked up and said, hey, I saw you at the Samadhi. Now, for those of you who have been to India, I'm one of hundreds standing in line. So I just thought, I didn't understand that. And then about a half hour later, somebody walked by me and said, hey, I saw you at the Samadhi. And when the third person said that to me, I said, what does that mean, you saw me at the Samadhi? And they said, you're glowing. And I walked over to a mirror and I was glowing. Now, the one thing I didn't tell you is that I was an agnostic at best. And I was even being fair, because it was kind of like, okay, I can't say yes or no if there's really a God. But I was my lefty political self. I listened to MSNBC all the time. I I tried to do spiritual things along, because Terry was a real seeker. We became Wiccan. We were both born Jewish, and I've tried lots of things, but nothing stuck. I mean, I went to witches things because I liked the food and the artwork, and the songs. And I do like ritual, but it didn't touch my heart. And then all of a sudden, I'm like walking on air, and I don't understand it at all. And like I said, every door opened. Do you know Bill? What's Bill's last name? Bill from Schenectady, the postman?
Bill Cliff.
Thank you, Bill Cliff. So Bill took us under his wing. To be taken under Bill Cliff's wing is incredible, because he made sure everything that we had wanted or even hadn't even thought of happened. So we had heard that we could get a meeting with Bao. So he got us a driver, and then Nashwan was there, and Nashwan was speaking down in Lower Maribot. And he heard that we had a car, and he had a lot of belongings to take to the lecture. And he asked if he could take a ride with us. We said, of course. You know, it was like 10-minute drive. We thought, no big deal. But then the train came. So what turned from a 10-minute drive turned into a 45-minute drive. We got to hang out with Nashwan. So it was like, and then we had heard that we should ask somebody, Dolly, for the remnants of the samadhi cloth. But Dolly was in Bombay that week, seeing a doctor. But then we had heard that Amrit had some wonderful clothing and boutiques. And we were told that we could just take a rickshaw there. But when we went out for the rickshaw, you know, there's usually like 10 sitting right there. There were none. So somebody said, catch the bus, it's going to Marazad, and just tell him you want to get off at Amrit's. So we did. He lets us off and he just points, like it's there. And we get out with a total faith that we're going to find it. And we're going in and out of buildings. And then finally, somehow, literally somehow, we got to Dara and Amrit's house. And we have this wonderful connection with her. And we said that we had heard that we could get a hold of some samadhi cloth. She says, well, I'm in charge of it. Come to the samadhi tomorrow morning, and afterwards come see me. So it was like everything kept happening. We got to meet Bao. What else happened, honey? It was just,
We got to go to Pumpkin House.
we got to go to Pumpkin House, which was an orphanage. They were, if people know Charlie Gardner from Athens, Georgia, they were honoring him. So we got to see we got invited to a whole show about honoring Charlie. And I came back from there higher than a kite. And I kept hoping that that honeymoon would stay. And that was 2013. In 2015, we went to South Carolina, and it was lovely. It was 5 days there, and again, everything seemed to fall into place. But I can't tell you that my heart had any sort of deep connection. So I just kept acting as if. And to tell you the truth, we were also supposed to, in 2020, we had signed to go to Avatar's abode in Australia for the Women's Sahavas. And that's when COVID hit. And we were still going to go, and we kept asking for a sign. Should we go? Should we not go? We were so looking forward to it. Again, I had built a whole vacation around it. And when Tom Hanks, who was filming Elvis in Australia, came down with COVID, we said, that's our sign. And we withdrew, and then pretty soon it all came apart. But we have wanted to go to Australia. Now we know Josh, so we really have an ace in the hole there, because he's promised us lots of personal tours, right, Josh? But it wasn't until Baba Zoom, which we got turned on to in like late summer of 2020 by Marta, who is here tonight, that my heart connected with Baba in a way that I had never felt connected to him. And I've spent the last 2 years going to RT almost all the time. It's just recently that I've pulled back. This is coming Sunday night, late night with Jeff, has been heart fulfilling. And you're doing a stellar job, Peter and Margie, I've got to tell you. And we are coming to the center at Christmas time. And it'll be really interesting for me. Having been on this journey that was kind of slow, fast, slow. And and now we know so many people, so it'll be really exciting. And I also want to end with one last thing. Terry and I went with 2 other Baba lovers, Seppi from England and Priya from Delhi. And we went to Italy 5 weeks ago. And we connected with Violette in Assisi. And she took us to the cave. And I had heard lots of stories of people being in the cave, that they just broke down and cried and felt all this. And so I get in there again. And I'm hoping to feel something, and I'm not feeling anything. So I'm acting as if just keeping my heart open. And we're saying the prayers and everything. But when the 5 of us did Avatame Baba Ki Jai 3 times, I don't know if anybody here has been in the caves, but the acoustics, the spirit coming from our heart, I broke down and had that experience that I had heard everybody have. So for those of you that are listening to this live, those listening to it recorded, whatever is supposed to happen with how you take Baba in will happen, not necessarily when you want it. But I think, Margie, you had put it perfectly in your email, which really, one of the reasons why I wanted to read it was to say it out loud, is it's what he has in store for us. And for me, it's just to be open-minded and open-hearted. Avatame Baba Ki Jai.
Wow. So beautiful. I think also so much like it's true. I think Baba, he keeps us right on that edge, right when we're about to hit the road and say, "You're not who you said you are." That's when he pours the love on even stronger. So wow, thank you so much for sharing that.
Actually, my better half wants to share now.
Yes, we'd love to hear. Terry, you're on.
Terry.
I'm just sharing a little something from Italy that, again, we don't know what Baba has in store for us, but I've lived in California for over 30 years. And coming back from Italy, I just feel like a different person. I can't really explain it. I've been to India, I've been to Myrtle Beach. We have a beautiful center here in town. We have a center up in Ojai. I've been to quite a few different ones. But this experience that we had in Italy, I can't even explain it, but I came back home and I'm seeing things just in nature that have been here all along that I've never even seen before. He's opened my eyes in such a way, it's so profound that everywhere I look, there's more dimensions that I've never had the experience to experience. And I said, Diane, how did I never see those trees before? And it's just outrageous. It's like I have a brand new life. And it's incredibly beautiful. I can't wait to go to be at Myrtle Beach and see it again, and with my new eyes, with Baba's eyes, and see you all who are around that area. It's going to be so exciting. And I'm in love. What can I say? I'm in love with that God of ours. And I feel so grateful to be in the community that we're in and with him, you know, minute to minute in my work, in everything that I do. It's just, he's such a gift, and I feel so blessed. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Diane. All right, next up we have Tony. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening, Jay Baba. I thought, I don't know. I'm not known for. I said this last time I shared, for not being able to share. I'm pretty open. I'm pretty open, and there's very little within my being that I won't talk about. You know, there are some, but India. I've been to India. I just made a little list. So if I haven't left anything out, 17 times over the first 36 years with Baba. So that's pretty much every other year. And now I haven't been there since 2006. So that's, what is that? That's 16 years. So for me, India is the place I miss. Some things, various things came to mind. I've been so fortunate. I mean, I've been to India so many times, to Assisi, to the LA Savas, to so many things. A gathering in Hungary with Don Stevens' group. But I don't know where I could begin, because it's all Baba's grace. The first trip to India, I guess the most striking memory is walking up the path that Baba walked up to Upper Mehrabad, and being really conscious of this. I grew up Catholic, so this is where the Christ walked, and I could feel it in everything. And halfway up, I just started running, like not by will, my body just, and I got to the song and I bowed my head. And I had been very fortunate to spend 7 months hearing Dr. Harry Kenmore's talks every Saturday, and for a long time every Wednesday on the discourses. And it was like getting a master class in Baba that to this day it's not available to people. I'd hate that. But he had talked about, you know, when you go to Baba Samadhi, you can ask for anything spiritual, but you don't go to ask any material things of Baba. If you want material things, you go to the perfect masters, the saints, whatever. But for Baba, he's there only to give the spiritual. And so I had the idea, you should ask for something. So I got there and my head hit the marble, not hit, but, you know, and inwardly I said, love, obedience, and surrender. I had kind of gotten it, that was, and even though Baba said surrender is the gift from man to master, it still has to be his will, you know? So, what else? Some hope, being a perfect host. One year I was there, and I have so many millions of stories, but these few came to mind. I was there, and there was a woman who arrived. It was around Amartithi time, not quite. And her son, her young son, maybe he was 10, and he was really kind of hostile and snippy and unpleasant things to say about everything. We were at by the Sarosh canteen in Nazaar, and I was really struck at how unhappy this kid was. And the next day, we were in the Pilgrim Center, they had already checked in, and I saw him and some other kid that I know he had never met before running around the whole place and playing with each other and having such a wonderful time. And I thought, God, Baba is the perfect host. He's the perfect host. He's like the friend of my mother's, who whenever we went to visit, she didn't have any kids, but she walked into the living room, threw a bag of toys on the floor, and then went to have coffee and cake with my mother, you know. Baba is the perfect host. I've seen that a lot. One year, two things came to mind. It was 2006, my last trip. I was packing, and my arm kept reaching up, and I had a Bedouin costume for some play I had been in, a local community theater thing some years earlier. And without even thinking, my hand went up and threw it in the suitcase, grabbed it and threw it in the suitcase. And I said, Tony, what are you thinking? So I put it back, and I'm packing other things, and I get the costume and I throw it in the suitcase again. It happened 3 times. I finally said, okay, well, I'll take the costume with me. It was the period from Amartithi to Baba's birthday, and they do a Baba birthday play, and I had started doing some acting by then. So I said, if you have any part for me in that, I'd be really happy to play a part. So they cast me as the play was Majnun and Laila, and they cast me as Majnun's father. And so I had this big Bedouin costume. I didn't wear, they gave me a better one than I brought, but I was there in Bedouin costume. And they even wrote like the opening song for me. They said, Tony's here, he can sing. Going back now to 1982, it was a difficult trip for reasons that had nothing to do with Baba, so to speak. But in any way, there was challenging elements, and then it opened up, and it was like rain pouring down, soaking into the earth of me. And it was the most beautiful. I was there for a month, and I get back home, and I'm lying in bed, asleep. I mean, not asleep, I'm awake, but I don't want to open my eyes because I'm imagining, okay, I'm in the Pilgrim Center, so now we're going to get up, I'll go get some tea. And I realized I'm in New York, and I did not want to open my eyes. I did not want to see this place. And it was really painful. It was really very painful. And at that moment, now I'm not I was never a big Barry Manilow fan, but at that moment, my clock radio went off, and Barry sang, sometimes goodbyes are not forever. It doesn't matter if you're gone. I still believe in us together. Those dreams of yours took you to distant shores, and though they've carried you away, I have no right to make you stay. But somewhere down the road, our roads are gonna cross again. It doesn't really matter when, somewhere down the road, I know that heart of yours is going to see that you belong to me. Letting go is just another way to say I'll always love you so. Anyway, that's the worst rendition of that song I've ever done, but it was Baba singing to me. It was Baba singing to me, right to that horrible missing. So now, since 2006, life circumstances have been that I'm not able to get back. I haven't been able, and I don't know when, if ever. And when I get there, the Mandali will not be there. The Pilgrim Center will not be there. There's a sense of loss. I have a sense. Baba's present. Baba's active, present, working on me harder than I can stand sometimes, like especially now. And that's one of the things I won't talk about. But there's that missing. And that's also, Baba says, he fans longing. That's one of the things he does, makes you feel the separation. So I feel his presence, but I also feel that longing. I think, yeah, so Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Tony. We could do a whole late night chat in the future with trips from your voyages to India. Love your stories. That's awesome. And in between those stories, you could do songs. Love your music as well. All right. Paula, I saw you had your hand up. Would you like to share something, Paula? Good evening. You want to click the unmute? There you go.
No, I was going to share and I decided not to.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No worries. If you change your mind, we're there for you.
And then I wanted to ask Diane and Terry, where do you live?
Venice Beach, California.
Oh, in Venice. I lived in Venice Beach, California. Oh my gosh. In 1980, we had a Baba like a communal house there in Venice Beach.
Wow.
Yep. Just to let you know, someday I'll tell you about it. It was wonderful.
All right. And Margie, would you like to share any of your pilgrimages to any amazing Baba place in the world that you've been to?
Sure. I mean, my whole childhood and the beginning of my life was a pilgrimage because I lived, I mean, pretty much like I grew up on the center and then I worked at the center. And so I would go to India so I'm 24 and I've, since my first trip when I was 14, this will be my 12th trip. So I've been almost every year. And it's like, the way I think about it is I have this cup that I fill up in India. And I never understood why I felt like an alien in the States. And like, I just didn't have any energy, or I didn't have any I mean, I've always been like a very enthusiastic, happy kid, but it was like, I didn't have that, I didn't have that fire and I didn't have that love. And my first trip to India, it was like, my cup got ground out. I think every time you go, Baba's got to make that cup bigger, and that's a little painful, but it has been like, I feel like, so I went almost, I mean, I was going twice a year. Some years I'd be away for like 6 months and then go back. Every time I'd work in a restaurant in Myrtle Beach, find some Baba lover's house to live at. I remember I was living at Damien's house on Perrin Drive, and I was just like working so I could get to India. And yeah, and that was how I spent most of my teens and young adulthood. But then when COVID happened, I mean, I went right before COVID, but the thing that happened with COVID was this space that I relied on for like my thirst to be quenched was gone. And I had to find that. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I kind of got caught up in the world because I was just thinking like, oh, Baba, like this COVID thing's going to pass in 2 weeks. Like, I'm not too worried about it. And then it was like a month and then a month. And then normally when I would go and plan my India trips, it was like still going on. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck? Like, this can't be real. This has got to go away at some point. And it just kept going on. And I started realizing like, oh my God, I might not get to India. And I could feel the level of my cup just getting lower and lower and lower. And then I was kind of like, wow, Baba, I have to make this cup last, because for so much of my young adulthood, I was spoiled. If I wasn't at the center, I was in India and I was absolutely nowhere else. And what it did is it actually made me create that inside of myself and that interconnection with Baba, to the point that when I went back to Myrtle Beach for the Usahavas this past July. And when I got there, I actually felt like an emptiness. It wasn't empty because of course Baba's love was there and all the kids were amazing. And I felt that I was there for service, but that pouring of divine love and that cup filling up, I realized like I had filled my own cup up. And I didn't do it. It was Baba, obviously. It had nothing to do with me. But now I feel like I have this cup and it's like overflowing for all of these other people to be able to take a drink. And I love there's this, I forget the exact wording of it, but it's an Erich quote. And somebody asked Erich, like, oh, Erich, aren't you so lucky that you get to feel Baba's love all the time and you get to be in this presence? And Erich looked at this person with like this forlorn look and said, we are the chalice, meaning the mandali, who hold the beloved's wine. It's something like it's overflowing, but we never take a drink. And I mean, personally, that's kind of how I feel, that it's like I'm filling this cup up and I feel this love, but it's like not quite the same. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the love is there and it's in me and it's full to share, but it's not necessarily my same feeling of that vitality. And so I've been feeling like that vitality, especially in the last week, just go to ground zero. And today it was like I hit nothingness. And I realized Baba was waiting for me to get to this point to take me back to India, because I've got like nothing left. And I'm so excited to go back because I've never gone with nothing before. That it's not necessarily desperation. It's just, I feel like an apparition that's just like gonna sit on a plane for 25 hours and somehow I'm gonna get to Mehrabad and someone's gonna like, you know, put the, what are those things called? Those electric shoots back on my heart and bring me back to life. But I'm so grateful that I'm at 0 going to Mehrabad tomorrow. But that's my, I haven't, it's not really a pilgrimage story because I haven't been yet. It could be another ego grinding, but who knows?
I think you could fool us that you're empty because you seem so full because you're just sharing. It's just pouring out of you.
I think it's Bob's will somehow. That's how he does it.
I'm just noticing that. I mean, you're glowing, so it's a beautiful thing. I always love this glowing through you.
Does anybody, maybe Michelle has Baba stories now that she put herself on the spot.
Okay, let me think about this. Okay, so maybe I'll just go to my first trip to India, and because I feel like going to Myrtle Beach was one thing, but India was completely different, and I could definitely draw a line in the sand. My life before going to Mehrabad. And so this was Christmas time, 95, 96. And it was as if Baba just got me in under the wire to meet his sister, because every day I was there, she was out every Merzad day but one. But the day after I left, money didn't come out anymore. And I got to Merzad and I was on the porch and I was sitting right next to Mani, and I asked her, you know, what it was like to have a brother who is God, because, you know, that story is so wonderful in her book. And she just glowed and she was telling the story, and I'm sitting there and I can feel the tears coming. I sat there, I don't know how long those stories went on, but I finally, you know, I was holding them back because I felt like I was going to bawl and I didn't want to cry in front of everybody. And little did I know that's just the deal. And so I go to Baba's room and it's a floodgate. And I'm just, you know, I'm a basket case. And then the next time I was in Merzad, of course, Casey came up and said, what happened? The ladies want to know. And I really didn't know what happened. I just, everything in that, my life to that point, Baba just took away. He just healed it. And he just made it very clear that everything that happened brought me to, enabled me to cross over that threshold. And then in Mandalay Hall, of course, Erij wants to know what brought you here. And I ended up recounting dreams of Baba I had. And one in particular, so just say that, I met Marvin at this artist thing, and he had a poster on the wall, framed poster of happiness lies and making others happy. And I'm sitting on the couch and it was like I was at home. And then Baba started coming to me in dreams. And so this one dream I had was around right before Baba's birthday, 1992. Because I met Marvin in 91, 90. And then at Armatithi time, I had a dream. Always I get these, well, I haven't had one in a while, Baba dreams where I'm in space, sitting with a bunch of people and sitting in a circle with Baba. Anyway, so this other dream that I had was that I was in the Holy Land. And I'm recounting this dream, how I'm in the Holy Land, and I'm up on a hill, and there's Jesus walking on the water, and he's beautiful. And he's wearing this long white robes, and his arms are stretched out. His hair's flowing, these black diamond eyes emanating bliss, power, overwhelming. I was overwhelmed. And there was music. There was some sort of singing it was beautiful, the scene. I walked down and I touched his sleeve and I turned to him and I asked him, well, when are you going to come and fix the world? And I'm thinking, oh, why did I ask that? But then he turns to me and he was Meher Baba. So after recounting this dream to Erich looks at me and he says, you're so fortunate. You see him in your dreams. I lived with him all those years, and I do not dream of him. It was so beautiful. It just touched me so deeply. How Erich is like, you brought him to how fortunate you are. You're here because he came to you and he brought you here. It's just really lovely. And I could go on, but there's lots of stories. I haven't gone to India that many times, but I did go 5 times. And each trip was a little different. There were a few ego grinding. But I will say that I think I went in 97 with Marvin, and Erich started asking me, who are you? Who is this girl? And so I was identifying as the artist, the stepmom, the wife, and all these things. And Erich just kind of looked at me dumbfounded, and he'd send me on. And then in 99, every time he would greet me, he would say the same thing. Who is this girl? And he would shake me. And one day I said, I'm his. And he said, yes. And he slaps me on the back. I can still feel that. And he never asked me again. So I got the thing. Yeah. And while all you people, I know this is going to be recorded, everybody's going to Italy, and I'm seeing everybody's going to Italy and going to Assisi. And some of you know that I'm going through this health crisis, and everybody knows I'm going through this crazy health crisis. I said to Marvin, I said, wow, and this is before I had my surgery. I said, wow, people are spinning the karma wheel and they get trips to Italy. And what do I get? I get neurosurgery. Oh boy. And so by his grace, I'm hoping for Armatithi 2024 and 2023 Italy. That's my hopes for my next pilgrimage by his grace. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. He always gives us a kick and a kiss.
And yeah, and I do have to say that when we went, we took Aaron when he was 7 or 8 in 2011. And so that was the last time I was in India. And I felt like my child knew his way around Nazaar. I really do. I think that there was no question that he had been there before. That's very sweet. And that's, yeah. That was an amazing trip. And,
it's all our homes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Jai
It's
Baba.
Jai Baba. Even if you don't feel it, it's still your home, That's what I think.
Oh, welcome home. It's our home. Yeah.
Yeah, especially, when you're there in Mehrabad, and I've gone for some longer periods of time, and you see these random sort of like spiritual seekers, these young kind of like Osho wandering types. And even when they get there, it's like they recognize something. I remember I was at one of my trips to Mehrabad. There was this Kazakhstani girl who had been at she tried every guru on Versailles throughout India, was kind of traveling and seeking. And when she got to Mehrabad, she was just like, I really like this place, and it was just a settledness that I think it really is all of our homes, whether you've been there or not in the past life or this life, it is our home. We're always welcome there. Same with Myrtle Beach.
Well, and I want to say that Speaking of crying and melting, Bob Frederick's new film with Pam Rubenstein's song, Days at Mirazad, that just broke me. I see Dolly's face on the bus laughing, and then I am crying. I watched it 3 times in a row, bawling my eyes out and thinking, wow, how fortunate. And now knowing that all the Mandalay are gone, and how special a time those pilgrimages were that we got to spend with them at his feet. Very precious. And singing Not This Body in Mandalay Hall for the women, and having the ladies in tears. It just, I don't know how I got so lucky. I feel so blessed. Thank you, Baba. And not to say he doesn't kick me. He's grinding me down for sure, for sure. And that's a good thing. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, looks like we got, there you go, Peter.
All right, we have Bob Yeager. Bob, good evening.
Hello. Yeah, the theme of being home has come up a couple of times, and it really reminds me of my first trip to India. I stayed at Vila Villa because nothing was built yet. The Pilgrim Retreat and the new center hadn't been built yet, and so I stayed at Vila Villa. It's quite nice, and it was quite an adventure getting there to India. But I was young. I loved it. It was wonderful. But I got there, and I met the Mandalay, and I went up Seclusion Hill, and I wandered around and saw these fabulous places and met these wonderful folks, and just felt so at home. But it didn't even strike me until, I had a lot of friends in the Denver area who were Baba lovers, and we were already having Baba meetings and had been for a number of years. So, we'd read the discourses, and we'd read God Speaks, and we'd have discussions, and it all made such both head sense and heart sense to me. I thought, oh, this is amazing. It makes so much sense in a way that the religion I was raised in didn't. It just never grabbed me. It just didn't. I thought, what is this? I got to India, and it's like, wow. I'd never felt as though I had belonged anywhere until I got to India. And I always felt like I was kind of on the outside of things, But, and it really didn't even strike me until my last day in India. And I didn't want to go, but I had to. I had a teaching job by then, and I had to leave. So here we go. Got to go home, the other home. But so I walk into the samadhi and bow down for the last time, and I get up and I come out, and Nanak is there. He used to give you a little prasad, a little piece of candy, and Nanak gave me a hug, and I just broke down. It surprised me. Just out of nowhere, I just burst into tears. Nothing like that had ever happened to me before. I did not want to leave. I just, how can I do this? How can I go? But I did. And I can say, I can truthfully say that the only time I experienced anything that I would call culture shock on that entire trip was landing in the airport in New York on the way home. It's like, what am I doing back here? Landing in New York and then flying to Denver, and it's just, it was quite a special trip. So Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Bob, do you also have a poem that you would like to share with us?
Oh, I'd have to.
How about, why don't we have, maybe, would you be willing to share that right before we close? So it'll give you time to find one?
Sure.
That would be great.
This way you have some time to marinate.
Great.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other stories? I was sort of, if you guys were interested, I'd love to tell you the story of how Izzy ended up getting to come to Mehrabad or getting to go to Mehrabad. So Izzy was the young girl who was on the chat last week and has been on the last couple of weeks. And she went to the Usahavas, and I was her counselor. And I already had this trip planned before I even came to Usahavas. And she's talking to me about Mehrabad and talking to me about Baba. And the last day, I'm sure she'd be fine with me sharing this, but the last day of Usahavas, she's just crying and crying and crying. And her parents are not, they're very open. They're super, like, her mom runs like a Waldorf school. They're really, really open parents, but they're not Baba lovers. They heard about the Usahavas through Vanessa. And so Izzy had this whole experience that was just hers. And she's sitting there in the little garden by the coves on the Baba Center, and she's looking at me and she's just saying, I don't know how I'm going to go back out in the world. I just know that I will never, ever leave him. And it was like, I remember she even told me, she was like, I love my family, and the love that I felt here and the acceptance I felt here is greater than anything my family could even ever give me. And it was so, so profound. So kind of not totally unbeknownst to me, but pretty unbeknownst to me. I guess she started talking to her mom about going to India with me, which I didn't offer. I mean, I was just kind of like, oh, I go to Mehrabad all the time. This is another one of Baba's centers. And I think I can say I've heard Baba's voice a couple of times in my life, and this was one of them. So I'm going through some old stuff, and I'm like, I wanted to wash some of my old India clothes, and a lot of them are just too small because my first trip I was 14, and so I'm going to throw these clothes out, and I hear Baba's voice say, "You have to take Izzy to India." And I remember just stopping and being like, Baba, I've been through this with you. I'll do it, but you better make it happen. I'm not doing anything. Like, you better make this work because this is a complicated thing. The girl's 16. I don't really know her parents. I don't even know if she's allowed to go to India. I don't know anything at this point. So I call her and I'm like, hey, how are you? What's been happening since the Usahavas? And she's talking to me about her Baba relationship. And then she ended up telling me she wants to volunteer on the center. And so she was volunteering on the center for a little bit. And I just kind of like dabble it out there. I was like, have you ever thought about going to India? And she's like, yeah, I've actually really, really been wanting to go. I was like, oh, well, maybe just kind of see what your parents think, see if that's a good idea. And this is us just kind of texting back and forth. And so Annie Levitt, who works in the center, her and I talk on the phone all the time and catch up. And she had just met Izzy, who I had spoken to her like super highly about and said I loved her and was really excited for her to work at the center. So Annie and I are about to get off the phone, and Izzy hasn't told Annie anything about this. I haven't told Annie anything about this. So it just shows Baba works through other people. She goes, Margie, did you tell me something about taking Izzy to India? And I was like, oh my God, Baba, like this is happening. And I said I was like, not out loud, Annie. And she said, oh, I don't know where I thought I heard that. And I was just like, okay, Baba, whatever you want to do. I'm, your wish is my command. And so I'm FaceTiming, a couple of days later, I'm FaceTiming Vanessa, and she's sitting in the Lakeview kitchen. And Izzy's mom just came to tea, for the 5 o'clock tea or whatever, or 4 o'clock tea. And she walks in, and before she can even say hi to me, she goes, oh my God, Margie, I've been meaning to call you. I have a crazy question for you. Would you be willing to take Izzy to India? And I was like, well, I guess, of course. And so it was like instant. I mean, I talked to her mom for an hour, and then she's done this and she's done this. And now this amazing thing is happening where I kind of feel like, I mean, Izzy's going to say this tomorrow, but Baba's like making this her own pilgrimage. So the flight that I originally bought was like, $1,100 when I bought it. But when her parents went to go buy it for her, it was $5,000. So obviously they didn't put her on that flight. So she's flying by herself. She's never been out of the country before, all the way to India. She's getting there 8 hours before me. And then she's staying in the Leela Hotel. I have a driver picking her up, but she's staying in the Leela Hotel. And then a friend of mine in Mehrabad is friends with the manager at the Leela Hotel. And he calls me and he says, hey, Prakash, my driver, told me about, Izzy coming early. And I got her upgraded. She's in a pool facing room with a sauna and a steam room. And it's just, Baba's rolling out the red carpet for her. But anyway, that's her story of pilgrimage a little bit. Yes, but does anybody else have any final stories? Am I gonna have to call on somebody, or we can always close for the night too? Peter, do you have anything that you want to share about your experiences of pilgrimage?
Sure. I mean, why not? I mean, so I was really lucky to get to go to India so far, 3 times in my life and 3 different times. Um, my first trip was when I was 7 in 1988, when Mara was still living. I went with my mom. I was in first grade, and it was over Thanksgiving break. And I remember a little bit of that trip, but not a lot. I mean, 7 is so young, and um, sort of remember like I got really sick in India that trip. I guess because my immune system just wasn't good as a kid, which happens. I also remember like asking my mom like, oh, which one's Mara, which one's Mara, and when you were 7, like you were young enough like that Mara was allowed to meet guys, so that was good. Um, and I played like a toy plastic guitar for her, and I remember like hearing stories about it that she liked my guitar playing. She told my mom, she was like, have Peter make sure you guys get Peter guitar lessons when he goes back to the States, which my parents did. And she told my mom and me, she said, for me to always stick with guitar. Um, and I vaguely like also remember like Monty, like how playful she was, and the other Manzali in India. I do also remember like when I was 7, those wells in India scared me. They were so big, especially to like a 7-year-old kid. I remember like saying, "Oh, these wells should be closed. This is like a danger. What if someone fell in?" That memory's come back to me. I do remember like getting to India that trip in 1988. We like it was a rough time getting to India. We like flew different planes. We kept getting delayed, and um, my mom at one point, I think we got to London it was, and she almost thought about turning around and going home to America. She was like exhausted and tired at that point, but luckily we didn't do that and we made it to India. And then many years later in 2000, August of 2000, when I graduated high school that year in 2000, my dad also turned 50 that trip, and we went together, my dad and I. It was also like right after youth Sahavas, and it was fun having other like friends from Sahavas that I knew. Let's see, in 2000, like Erich was living, and of course Bao and Meru and a couple of the Mandalu were living, and um, it was a fun trip. I remember playing guitar there. I was able to play different songs there at the Samadhi. That was fun. Oh yeah, Muhammad the Mus was there. I remember in 2000, and I remember my dad is a chiropractor, a really good chiropractor, and he actually gave Muhammad the Mus a chiropractic adjustment that trip, which was amazing. Um, a story within itself. And then years later, about 10 years later, after 2000, I went with 2 other friends that I knew like from the Youth Savas in 2010, in January 2010, and that was awesome. I only stayed about 2.5 weeks. I was going through sort of like a transition. I was At that time I was working for what was called the 3D IMAX theater in Myrtle Beach. Since then that closed, but like I knew I wanted to get out of the IMAX, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to get out of the IMAX. I had about like 2.5, 3 weeks paid vacation. I wanted to use it all and go to India, and the IMAX was going through changes, and um, I just remember being like through transition in India, and it was a powerful, really powerful trip. And I remember Balkashri was there. I went to like all of his talks, but I sat in the back and I could not understand them. I usually snuck out and went to the cyber cafe, the Darbar, and went on the checked in with email and whatnot. And at that time, but it was neat seeing Val though. Um, and like that trip, I really liked Meru. She was really awesome. She felt like a cool grandma to me. I loved her stories, and she like was really into pop culture, which I was surprised about, and she knew what was going on in the West. That was cool. Um, and she gave us like different candies and whatnot. That was fun. And the fact that she like was with Bob on the New Life was pretty cool. So that was neat. Seeing Neighbor that trip. And I do remember also Marwan Airsh's brother from that trip too. And it was like right before India of 2000. I wrote my very first song, and it was such an honor to play it at the Samadhi a couple times as well. So that was fun. Um, and I'll say that was the last trip in 2010. I'm hoping to go back within the next 2 or 3 years to India, if Baba allows it, whenever his timing is. So yeah, those are my trips so far.
Thank you,
Jai
Peter.
Baba. Thank you,
Jai
Margaret.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
Well, should we let Bob say what he has to say with his hand raised and then do his poem and close out? Does that
Yes,
sound?
and then I also have one little special surprise for you, Margie, after
Ah,
Bob's poem. But let's let Bob go first. Bob, take it away.
oh no, you're muted, Bob.
Okay, there.
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. When you asked me to read something, I just turned to this. So I'm gonna do that because it's like we'll let that be the choice, you know. So
Perfect.
I'd like to read 2 short poems. The first one is by Jeff Wolverton. And the second one sort of accompanies Jeff's. So Jeff's is titled God by Any Other Name. When we reach for the best in ourselves, we're all drawing from the same well, sending a bucket deep down into a hidden pool of grace and pulling up floodwaters that drown out selfishness. Why is it so few people see that this common well is the one God we all turn to, that we've never drawn our water from different sources? And mine is titled Longing for Light. The playground overflows with laughter. As old dog and I pass the schoolyard, sun pours from the blue bowl of sky. A tall chain link fence separates, transforms the sidewalk into a strange arabesque passage of shifting shape and shadow. There is no facile segue here, no comfortable blend of dark and bright. The days simply do not satisfy as they did before this thirst arose for your warmth, your light. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jeff, as well. And Tony, I see you with your guitar. Would you like to play a song before we close it out as well?
Sure.
All right.
I was actually accompanying Bob as he was reading. I was just riffing behind his poetry. All right, I'll do. Oh, I should have left my amplifier on. But anyway, this is by Francis Brabazon from In Dust I Sing. When the screen of day was slid aside, revealing night's peacock-eyed tapestry, I took up my post of prayer, remembrance of my beloved's courtesy. Not desiring anything, mind fasting and heart content. The time from dusk till dawn was an eternal moment. At some point in this nothingness, a tear welled up and fell in the dust and split, and I was carried to the master's door by love's thrust. He was standing in the doorway, enjoying the rose-scented breeze from the garden of his lover's heart and their harp-like melodies. With his permission, I brushed the dust from his feet with my eyelashes, and there was a roar in my ear as if surf that on a white beach crashes. He stroked my head, and my head burst into flame. And I began to understand that mercy is God's chief name. When I returned, I found that I was still at my post of praise, with an empty wine glass in my hand that caught the sun's first ray. When the screen of day was slid aside, revealing night's peacock-eyed tapestry, I took up my post of prayer, remembrance of my beloved's courtesy. Jai Baba.
What a
Jai
perfect
Baba.
song for tonight. Amazing.
Jai Baba.
So before Peter has his special surprise, whatever he's doing, this is Peter and my last night doing the late night chat, and I just want to say thank you so much. Well, Peter will still be here. I'll be gone. And
Yes,
then
I'll still be here.
fun surprise, starting when I get back from India, Peter and I will have our own late night chat on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
You guys want to join? It'll be Peter and I.
For Thankful Thursdays.
Thankful Thursdays, yeah.
By the way, next week it will be Laurent for Late Night Chat. He will be hosting. And he said he has a special interview guest, which is a surprise. So that will be next week's Late Night Chats. Margie, it's been a lot of fun co-hosting with you the past couple weeks.
Especially fun with your wig. I couldn't find you a couple times.
Thank you. I wanted to do some Halloween festivities. Festive. I wanted to share a video I found on YouTube while this was going on. And this will bring us back to India. Jai Baba.
Oh.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a happy song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Some trails are happy ones, others are blue, but it's the way you ride that trail that counts. Here's a bring the sunny weather, happy trails to you. Till we meet
Hey, Baba guys, I will take you all to India. All of you. I'll think of you all at the Samadhi.
Have a beautiful time, Margie.
Thank you. You guys too.
Be safe, honey.
How long will you be there?
It's 14 days total.
Lovely.
Yeah, short one, but good.
Can't wait to hear the stories.
I'll bring them back.